A McDonald's employee was abused by her own manager, who was blindly following instructions from a prank caller. More than 900 people died in a single day, believing it was the right thing to do. Real mass killers once stood in front of a camera and calmly showed the world what they had done. What connects all these terrible events? They are all 100% real, and they were all turned into movies. Today, on Top Today, we're talking about 5 disturbing movies based on real events and the true stories behind them. If you enjoy this kind of content, hit the like button and subscribe for more. Compliance, 2012. This movie is terrifying for a very simple reason. You know people like this. There's always a Sandra, the kind of person who will do absolutely everything for her job, even cross moral lines, as long as she thinks it's part of her responsibility. And then there's a Becky, someone who always follows the rules, stays silent, and avoids conflict. That's what makes this story so painful. It actually happened. The situation is absurd, and there were so many chances to stop it, but no one did. In the early 2000s, an unknown man started calling fast food restaurants across the United States. He introduced himself as a police officer and calmly accused employees of stealing money. This bizarre pattern of calls became known as the strip search phone call scam, a series of incidents where callers impersonated law enforcement to manipulate staff into performing illegal and humiliating actions. The calls always followed the same pattern. He sounded confident, professional, authoritative, and people believed him. Managers were told to detain employees, search them, and keep them isolated in back rooms until the police arrived. Over the phone, the caller gave step-by-step instructions, slowly pushing the situation further and further. What started as a simple accusation turned into hours of humiliation and psychological abuse, all carried out by ordinary people who thought they were following the law. This real and shocking series of events is exactly what the film Compliance is about. Snowtown, 2011. Most of you have probably heard about this movie, but it's way darker than you think. The story behind Snowtown is known as the Bodies in Barrels murders, where the remains of multiple victims were found stored inside barrels in an abandoned bank vault in Snowtown, South Australia. In reality, the murders weren't confined to Snowtown itself. Only one victim was actually killed there. Most of the killings happened in and around Adelaide between 1992 and 1999, carried out by a small group led by John Bunting, with accomplices including Robert Wagner and James Vlasakis. Their victims were people they decided were weak or otherwise unworthy, often based on rumors, flimsy evidence, or nothing at all. What makes the real case so disturbing is not just the brutality, but the calculation and manipulation behind it. Some victims were tortured before death, and the killers even tried to take over their social security payments and bank accounts. The film Snowtown takes that true story and turns it into a slow, creeping psychological crime drama. It doesn't go for sensational gore the way you might expect. Instead, it focuses on atmosphere, human dysfunction, and the way violence can seem almost ordinary until it isn't. The actors, many of them locals with no prior experience, give performances that feel painfully authentic, making the horror feel like something that could really happen next door. Unlike a documentary, the movie doesn't show every real detail. It compresses events and characters for narrative flow, and not every confrontation from real life is in the script. But the core cruelty, the background of psychological manipulation, and the crushing sense of inevitability remain true to what happened. Hotel Mumbai, 2018. Hotel Mumbai isn't fiction. It's a terrifying reconstruction of the 2008 Mumbai attacks, one of the most coordinated terror attacks in recent history. On November 26th, a team of heavily armed militants hit multiple locations across Mumbai. They opened fire at crowded spots like Leopold Cafe, killing and wounding civilians before moving to their main target, the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel. This wasn't random chaos. The hotel was deliberately targeted. Around 9:35 p.m., the attackers entered the Taj, some through a side entrance near the pool, others through the main lobby. Grenades exploded, bullets ripped through the halls, and guests had nowhere to hide. The attackers were members of Lashkar-e-Taiba, a Pakistani extremist militant group. Their goal wasn't just to kill, it was to terrorize the city, gain international attention, and challenge Indian authorities. They were trained, armed, and coordinated, moving methodically through the hotel to maximize fear and casualties. 10 of them traveled by sea from Pakistan, arriving in Mumbai prepared to carry out a planned, deadly assault. Inside, panic erupted. Guests ran for cover, some hiding in closets, bathrooms, or back corridors. The staff, waiters, cleaners, and chefs had to make split-second decisions to save lives, guiding terrified strangers while bullets whizzed past them. Many, like Hemant Oberoi, the executive chef, stayed behind, refusing to abandon guests even as the building became a war zone. The real horror? Help took hours to arrive. Elite counter-terror units were based far away in Delhi. Local police tried to respond, but the scale and coordination of the attack left hundreds of people trapped inside the hotel for hours. Ordinary civilians and staff were forced to survive on their own, while militants moved strategically through bars, hallways, and restaurants. The film doesn't just show violence. It shows the tension, the split-second decisions, and the courage of real people. Some characters are composites, some are based on actual guests, but their actions reflect reality. People risking their lives to save others, hiding families, carrying the injured, and confronting the unimaginable. Watching Hotel Mumbai, you feel the claustrophobia, the terror, and the unpredictability of the situation. The Sacrament, 2013. Most people think The Sacrament is just another found-footage horror movie, but what really makes it unsettling isn't ghosts or monsters. It's how close it feels to something that really happened. The film doesn't claim to be a documentary, but its plot is heavily inspired by the Jonestown Massacre of 1978, one of the most horrifying cult tragedies in history. The movie follows a group of Vice journalists who go to investigate a remote religious commune called Eden Parish after Patrick's sister Caroline invites him there. At first, it looks like a utopia, free living, community, peace, but pretty quickly the atmosphere starts feeling off. As they dig deeper, they realize something is terribly wrong. In real life, Jim Jones created the People's Temple and lured hundreds of followers to a jungle settlement in Guyana called Jonestown. Jones preached peace and equality, but he controlled every part of his followers' lives. When outsiders tried to investigate abuses, things took a horrifying turn. After a U.S. congressman and some defectors tried to leave, Jones ordered his followers to drink cyanide-laced flavor aid, leading to a mass suicide murder of more than 900 people. The Sacrament takes that core concept, charismatic leader, isolated community, blind loyalty, and fictionalizes it into Eden Parish. The leader orders a mass killing, and the cult members die together. There are some big differences from the real thing. In Jonestown, the real massacre included actual political pressure, a congressman's assassination, and over 900 deaths, which the movie doesn't fully replicate because that story is too massive and complex for a 2-hour film. The Sacrament compresses events and characters to fit the narrative, and most of the cult and journalists are fictional. Still, the film hits hard because its found footage style makes everything feel real, like you're watching actual documentary camera crews stumble into something horrific. It captures the same sense of blind obedience, fear, and escalation that can lead ordinary people to tragic ends. The Act of Killing, 2012. Let's start with the obvious. This isn't a regular horror movie. It isn't a thriller, it isn't fiction. It's a documentary masterpiece by Joshua Oppenheimer about people who actually killed hundreds, no, thousands of people, and how they remember and justify it. This is one of the best documentary films I've ever watched, and I will definitely make a full video about it, but for now, let me tell you more here. This film is a masterclass in human psychology. It lifts the veil and shows, in chilling detail, the true face of evil. It reveals what humans are capable of and how far someone will go to justify their own atrocities. It's not just a study of killers, it's a study of the dark potential in all of us, exposed through memory, storytelling, and denial. The film focuses on Anwar Congo and his gang, Indonesian men who carried out mass killings in 1965 to 1966 during the anti-communist purge. Thousands were murdered, and these men weren't ashamed to talk about their crimes. What makes it even more horrifying is how the filmmakers let them reenact their murders in any style they wanted. Gangster films, musicals, noir, even slapstick. Anwar and his friends directed, acted, and staged scenes of their killings as if it were entertainment. At first, they laugh, boast, and perform like it's a show. Slowly, Oppenheimer's genius begins to crack the killer's layers of defense. By letting them experience, even briefly, the perspective of their victims, and by constantly confronting them with their own atrocities, we start to see Anwar's inner turmoil. All the arrogance, all the theater he played for himself and others, it's an illusion he desperately wants to believe. Deep down, he knows there is no escape from accountability, and he begins to recognize the true horror of what he did. This realization reaches its devastating climax in the film's final scene. You have to see it to understand it. It's raw, unforgettable, and a masterpiece that will remain a classic forever. The film shows horrifying acts, intergenerational hatred, raw brutality, and also explores how propaganda works and how easily people can be manipulated. If all the previous films on this list were based on real events, the act of killing is the real thing itself. It's the most real, shocking, and unforgettable documentary I've seen in a long time. Now, that is the list. No monsters, no ghosts, just real people, real horror, and a perfectly normal life without the internet. And what is your favorite movie based on a true story? Share it in the comments below. If you liked this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.